Okay, hello everybody. Ed Rosenberg here, and again I got Chris McCabe, who was gracious enough to join us. Thank you very much, Chris. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Had a lot of snow yesterday and the night before, so
Right, there were rumors that you don't like to do any kind of physical labor. Those rumors are now
hey,
shut down.
I went out. I was shoveling. I had to clear off cars. I was sliding around on the roads. It was very exciting. So kind of an abbreviated day today, but still happy to be talking to you.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you, Chris. So let me just jump right at it. A couple of questions now. I mean, I think this question is ridiculous, but that's me. So we want to hear the experts say. Somebody asked me the following question. I have a business and have an employee what logs in and he just buys something, which is a pretty normal thing.
Yep.
And he's worried that this employee is going to leave down the road, let's say in 3 months or in 2 months, and open up a seller's account, and they'll connect him to his account. Is that totally over the head, over the tilt, or is that
That
actually
before. I mean, there's different things, scenarios that people have given me in the past. The best thing is just to keep all that stuff separate. And if even if it's a buyer account isn't the same as necessarily signing into a seller account, but keep everything separate. I mean, most people, they're employees. They sometimes they have seller accounts and they're signing in from the same business and they end up selling the same stuff, right? That's where it usually comes up. People have problems with we see, tracking sign-ins from the same location, the same address, sometimes the same phone. The names might be different, but at that time, you're already selling in the same category or the same items, and it's a harder argument to make. It's just better to avoid all that.
right?
But
But I'm saying once it happens, I would think it's overkill. Like if it happens to me today with
once it
mine,
happened, yeah, I mean, there's a difference between preventing it in the future and dealing with it in the present. Once it happens, yeah, just encourage people to sign into. I mean, people should be signing into Amazon on their phones anyway, right? Half the time, not on
right?
their work computer. I mean, that's what I do. So hopefully in the future that won't be as much of a problem.
Right. Okay. So that's one. And now, how about this case? Somebody's coming from overseas and he's going to be in the US for a month. Now, should he contact seller performance? He's going to be answering messages, taking care of his emails and stuff. He's probably
Right.
doing just FBA.
You mean as far as signing into Seller Central from new locations?
Yeah.
Uh, yes, and I mean just coming to the US, I mean sometimes if there's a big change in sign-ins, they think it's a possible account compromise. So people used to email seller performance just to prevent them from thinking that was going on if they got their account annotated. But it also depends on the countries too. It was more back in the day, it was more an issue of if people were signing in from traditional fraudster type countries all of a sudden. Um, and there's an ever-changing list of what those countries are. Back then, it was Romania. So if we suddenly saw Romanian sign-ins, we thought, oh, so they've been, hijacked more or less, and they've lost control of their account. They responded to an email, hit a link, gave up their password, lost control of their seller account. So yeah, I mean, it couldn't hurt to get your account annotated, but it probably wouldn't be an issue if it's just. I mean, people travel for business all the time, right? So if you went to France suddenly, or somebody French came here, it's not that big of a deal. Yeah,
Right.
especially if consistent. I mean, it's also consistency of sign-ins too. If there's just one stray one, then it's a bit off. But yeah,
Right. That's what I figured. I told him if there's no major changes, I think he's fine. And how about him signing into the same network of like his brother? His brother was suspended.
again, anytime you're mixing and matching with that stuff, you're playing with fire. Even if it looks legit to a good seasoned veteran investigator, you might get a rookie investigator who sees it and doesn't know what they're doing and thinks something's up. Why risk it? Why take those chances? I've had people tell me that they have people that they know were Amazon sellers coming into their business and signing in right there at those computers in the Seller Central. I mean, these are terrible ideas in the current climate of the investigators they have, the turnover they have, some of the bad training they have. You're just adding layers of risk where there's already plenty of risk as a seller. So don't let people sign into their Seller Central from your computers, and they shouldn't anyway. Again, you should have like your smartphone, your laptops with you. I mean, sometimes I wonder, maybe I'm out of touch, why people need to go to somebody else's business to sign into their Amazon account. It doesn't make sense to me, but maybe I'm missing something. Yeah.
Right, that's what I said. No, but he was saying that if he logs into like log me in, like remotely, and if the other computer suddenly goes down, he can't do it anymore. So yeah, I would agree. If there's no,
Uh, I mean, you don't want them thinking a couple of things. You don't want them thinking that you're related to somebody you're not, especially if that person's got problems with their account. A lot of people also sell the same things as their colleagues or their friends. That's another problem. Then there's more overlap. And then there's also account compromises. You don't want to have to reset your password, be signed out of your account for security reasons needlessly, because that's kind of a hassle, right? You'd have to go in, go through the security protocol, set up a new password. If you make it look like you've fallen prey to a phishing email, or you make it look like your account's been compromised because you have different sign-ins, and then on top of that, what if you start listing new items all of a sudden? Then you have the different sign-in, and they've changed their category, their product type overnight. That looks like you've lost control of your account. There's all these different scenarios. It's just best not to tempt fate with that stuff.
well, better,
Yeah.
definitely better safe than sorry.
Yeah.
Bezos emails. Tell me about it. I know you got a lot to say about it. Tell me about it,
I
please.
know. I'll try to condense it a little bit because this has been a big deal lately. In the past, when people, especially with the policy teams, were driving most of these suspensions, let's just say for 2015 and into early 2016, and if you were getting the same responses over and over from them, or if they never responded, if they kept asking you for different kinds of information, in response to, say, a POA, you were asked for a plan of action to get your ASINs reinstated or your account reinstated if you're suspended. That was where you went to escalate, was Bezos escalation, executive seller relations, those types of places. The problem now is that the response quality from product quality is so poor, and there's been so much back and forth. Everyone's stuck in a loop. People are getting the same canned responses over and over, no matter what they send. Or the POA you send isn't read at all, or it looks like, based on the response, it wasn't read. You can't as easily go to the emails to Jeff because everybody's starting to go there. So there's a backlog. So that's kind of my main point number one. You can't expect as quick of a response from the Bezos teams as you did in the past. And those used to be very quick. Those were unique escalations. Now it's kind of like, it seems like every Tom, Dick, and Harry is both emailing one in, and also they probably got more, Tom, Dick, and Harry emailing responses to you. And sometimes I've done a couple, and I can tell that whoever was on the other end wasn't really reviewing any of it, and they just were backlogged. They had to churn through a few within that particular hour, and that's what they did. That creates problems because then they're more likely to say, this is a terrible POA, you got to give us another one anyway. And you're just caught in the circle where you're giving them bad information and they're giving you bad information back, and you're going to dance like that for a long time. And I don't think anyone really wants to do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But when they hold the money, is there anything to do about getting the money faster these days? Every 2 weeks there's a settlement. I know at one point you were able to email them and ask them to send it faster. You hear anything about that?
Under what circumstances? If they're doing a random funds reserve. There are some people I've been able to get their money faster because they're being put on funds reserve more frequently than they need to be, almost once a quarter or more than once a quarter. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. It just happens, and there's no explanation for it. So if I escalate those, and there's perfect, metrics are great, there haven't been performance notifications coming in. It's just a haphazard thing that somebody happened to look at the account for whatever reason and instituted the funds reserve without seeing that you had already done 3 like earlier in the year. You can get those lifted, but most of the others, you are waiting those out for a month, and you're going to get money from orders that are 14 days old or older.
No, but how about if you don't have money in funds reserve and you just want the money released faster than that?
You mean if you're blocked?
No, I get paid twice a month, every 2 weeks. Is there any way to do it that can I request to get it more often?
Uh, that's usually a long, painstaking process. That's not an easy thing to do. If you're doing some good revenue and you've got good performance and you have no policy violations, there are ways of approaching it, but it takes time to sort that out. That's not typically the kind of person who asks me. It's usually the cash-starved person who, for whatever reason, again, is sort of leveraged to the hilt, and they can't get money every 2 weeks. They need it weekly, or they can't even sell on Amazon because they can't pay any of their creditors. And if that's your situation, you're kind of negotiating from a position of weakness, and desperation, and that's not really what it's for. They want to disperse money to people faster for reliable, long-term, healthy, no item quality complaints, relationships with the company in lending or AWS or other programs, maybe account management. Those are the people that they want to even consider. Everybody else kind of has to wait.
Right. Another thing I wanted to ask you, when do you get an email that your item was closed for a high negativity rate, and when do you get a seller performance rate email? Like, is it just random? Seems like...
More or less. I would want my account annotated for that, because what if they try to send you a policy violation for that same ASIN down the road and you've already got this in there? I would think you'd want that documented. Now, if they're valid complaints and you think they're valid, or you think some of them are valid, I would send them an email saying that you looked into it, you investigated it, you checked out your inventory, you inspected it, you talked to your supplier, whatever you want to do, that they can annotate your account with, because it might come up again later, right? So just part of the steady communication that I advocate.
Right, so even when you get those
Did I lose
automatic...
you, Ed? Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still there. I know the connection's not great, and
You with me?
yeah, I am with you. Chris?
I lost you. Did you ask the question?
Yeah, do you hear me?
I do now, but I lost you for about 25 seconds.
Yeah, before, and the connection isn't great, so...
Okay. Well, maybe we can, I gave you a couple long answers. Maybe we can kind of move it to whatever you had left.
Anything else what they're looking at that you want to tell us, that you want to warn us about?
No, I mean, well, I was in the middle of talking about the webinar tomorrow when I may have lost you. So it's 2 p.m. Eastern, Seller Labs. It's my colleague and I are going over how to communication tips on a variety of subjects. We can't cover everything, but the main stuff you and I are always talking about: dealing with product quality teams, dealing with ASIN restrictions, account suspensions.
Yeah, I'm actually signed up to that Seller Labs, and I'm
Okay.
definitely looking forward to that.